Hello guys and gals, and this is part 10 of our reading of Whodunit, You Decide, Mini Mysteries for You to Solve by Conrad and illustrated by Lucy Corvino. As always, we are going to look at the copyright information, which clearly says all rights reserved with no exceptions. So, yeah. The one that we'll be reading today is Will-o'-the-Wisp. Number 10, Will-o'-the-Wisp. And we are going to put the bookmark there. Will-o'-the-Wisp. Let's take a look at this picture real quick. I'm seeing footprints and stuff, which is pretty cool. A gunshot. Reggie Long yelled into the receiver, and a split second after that I heard a shout. A man's shout. He was still gazing out his living room in the front of the house. At the front of the house next door. No one's come or gone. It's 412 Maple Street. Hurry! The police dispatched. The police dispatcher said a patrol car would be there within minutes, warning him not to leave his house. But Reggie's curiosity would not be denied. He slipped on his coat, grabbed a set of keys from a peg, and trudged over into a foot-deep carpet of newly fallen snow. Arthur, the neighbor from the other side of 412 Maple, was already standing at Gus's front door. Arthur, is anyone answering? I have house keys Gus gave me. Arthur Ames pounded a fist on the door. Gus, he yelled, and tried the knob. It's locked. Gus? He waited several seconds, coatless and shivering. Okay, give me the key. The entry hall was dark as the neighbors stepped into the elegant house that separated their own residences. They didn't have to wander far to find the body. Gus Good was laying in the doorway of his downstairs study, a pool of blood surrounding his head. 5 feet away lay a .38 revolver. Is anyone there? A voice wailed from the second floor. Something woke me. It sounded like, is Gus all right? Gus? The neighbors knew the voice. Lydia, Gus's ailing, bedridden wife. Before either could answer her or approach the corpse, the blare of the siren became audible, growing louder with each passing second. Right off, the police noticed footprints. The snow had stopped half an hour earlier, and the white lawn of 412 was dotted with 2 clearly marked trails, one set leading from Reggie's house and the other from Arthur's, both trails converging on 412's doorstep. As expected, they found their suspect still inside. Joey Good was Gus and Lydia's nephew, a deaf mute who had been living with the elderly couple for the past year. When the police searched the 3rd floor, they found Joey in his room watching the last of his morning shows on a soundless TV, seemingly unaware of the murder that had taken place just 2 floors below. The alleged motive was found clenched in the victim's fist. Arthur, the family's lawyer, as well as neighbor, had recognized the scrap of paper. That's the corner of Gus's new will. He signed it last night. See here? The date and part of the signature of the witnesses. Reggie and me. I know it's not usual for a lawyer to witness a client's will, but Gus was insistent on getting it done right away. Lydia couldn't sign because she inherits. Naturally, the police wanted to see a copy of the will. Arthur led the way to his own house. And that's where they encountered the day's second crime. It was gone. Arthur said he had fumbled through his papers. The only other copy of Gus's new will is gone. I put it in this file just last night. No trace of either copy was ever found. Not a shred, ash, or any other remnant, which made Gus's old will once again valid. The district attorney begins his opening arguments. Prosecution. Joey Good had motive. He inherited under the old will, but not under the new. He was the only one with opportunity. No footprints, other than the witnesses, were found in the snow. Also, the front door. It's not equipped with an automatic lock, which means that someone leaving the house could not simply pull the door locked behind him. He would have had to use a key, and yet the witnesses tell us that the door was locked. Another indication of an inside job. It seems pretty conclusive. Joey had been the only physically capable person in the house, cut off by a blanket of untrampled snow. But as you view the evidence, something doesn't seem quite right. Trial witnesses and evidence. This crime can be solved with one clue. Okay, one clue. This one is going to be interesting then. Prosecution witness, Reggie Long. Prosecution. How long after the shot did it take you to look out the window to the victim's door? No time at all. I was right by the window. And after that, how long was the door out of your sight? 10 seconds maximum, just long enough to grab my coat and keys and head out the door. And while you were watching, no one left the good house? No one. Now, Mr. Long, about the will. You acted as a witness on the night before the murder. Correct. Arthur called me up and asked me to come over. It was quite late. He explained that I was witnessing Gus's signature. Gus was in a mean mood. Mean, but very aware of what he was doing. It just took a minute. Prosecution witness, Arthur Ames. Just like Reggie, I heard the gunshot and the shout. I had an instant feeling it might be Gus. Without thinking, I rushed right out the door, straight into the snow. It was easy going. Some of the drifts were... it wasn't easy going. Some of the drifts were 2 feet high. I got to Gus's door about the same time Reggie came out. I saw absolutely no one but Reggie outside. Not until the police showed up a minute or so later. Do you remember seeing any footprints at all other than your own? There were no other prints. Defense witness, investigating officer, defense. Did you find any trace of an intruder? We're not sure. You see, in the hall closet we found 4 coats, 3 large males and a medium female, also 3 pairs of snow boots, 2 males and a female, and a pair of rubber boots. The rubbers and one of the male coats were wet, as was the floor in front of the closet. We asked Mrs. Good to identify the coats, and she could not be sure which ones belonged to her husband and a nephew. If one of the men owned 2 coats and a pair of rubbers, then there was no intruder. On the other hand, an intruder could have arrived just as it started snowing, hung up his coat, killed Good, and somehow got away, leaving his coat and rubbers behind, theoretically. How many keys exist to the front door? 3. Mrs. Good is positive about that. We've accounted for all 3. One was in Joey Good's pocket, one was the deceased's keychain, and one in Mr. Long's possession, the one used to unlock the door. And was there any way of locking that door without the key? No. Okay. And lastly, we have prosecution witness, medical examiner. A medical examiner. Death was administered by a single shot from an unregistered .38 revolver. The bullet pierced the forehead, passing through both the frontal lobes and post-central gyrus and lodging in the parietal lobe. I would have to say that death was nearly instantaneous. Prosecution Exhibit C, the Old Will. The prosecution introduces the contents of Gus Good's Old Will. In the absence of any later document, this testament is legally binding. In this will, Gus leaves the bulk of his estate to his wife and nephew, evenly divided between them, with a smaller inheritance going to his lawyer and childhood friend, Arthur Ames. Small bequests are also allocated to other friends and distant relatives. So let's get down to the deliberations. Okay, what was this called? Oh yeah, Will the Wisp. There we saw it. Let's the verdicts. Will-o'-the-Wisp. You enter the jury room, mulling over mounds of questions and inconsistencies. For starters, who shouted a split second after the murder? Since the victim was killed instantly, it couldn't have been he. The killer, perhaps. An eyewitness, it certainly wasn't the deaf-mute defendant, Joey Good. Another juror points out a discrepancy between Arthur Ames' testimony and Reggie Long's. You didn't notice the discrepancy until she outlined it, but you still don't understand what it means. And what about the disappearing wills? No trace of what would have been a multi-page document was found anywhere in the snowbound house. Next door, at Arthur Ames's house, the police also found nothing. The final mystery is the lack of footprints in the snow. How would a killer or thief get into the Good house on a snowy morning? Okay, let's check out the verdicts here. That's a lot to think about. Here we are. You find Joey Good not guilty. A glaring inconsistency guides you along the right path. It is illegal to witness a will in which you inherit. The fact that Arthur Ames signed the new will as a witness means that he had been cut out, not Joey Good. Suddenly, Arthur has a motive for killing Gus and destroying the new will. With this in mind, you construct the scenario. On the night before the murder, Gus Good wrote a new will, disinheriting his old friend and lawyer. The reason, you don't know. Arthur was angered by Gus's behavior and visited his neighbor the next morning, just as it stopped snowing. Perhaps Arthur intended the meeting to be peaceful, although the unregistered gun in his pocket would indicate otherwise. Gus and Arthur argued. Arthur brandished the weapon, and it went off. The shout was Arthur's, delivering the shocked surprise at his own lethal action. After a minute of indecision, Arthur stuffed the will into his pocket and left, forgetting his overcoat and rubber boots in the hall closet. Just as Arthur closed the door, Reggie Long popped out of his front door and naturally assumed Arthur had just arrived. The discrepancy between Reggie and Arthur's testimonies. Reggie said he turned away from his view of the house only for 10 seconds, hardly enough time for Arthur to leave his own house and trudge through the snow to his neighbor's. Gus's front door is still unlocked, but when Reggie ran up and offered his key, Arthur was quick to take advantage, pretending to unlock an already unlocked door. The only remaining problem was to make his own copy of the will disappear. Since Arthur was not a suspect, it was relatively easy for him to search through the wrong files and to dispose of the telltale document while the police looked elsewhere. You aren't surprised when, a week later, Arthur Ames is arrested. After all, the police aren't stupid. They're just a little slower than you. This has been a reading from Whodunit, You Decide, Mini Mysteries for You to Solve, by Conrad, and illustrated by Lucy Corvino. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. And if you want to support me in any way, all that information will be in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.